Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and we started a few franchises, franchises, if I say that correctly. It may have come out sounding
French
okay, but
fries.
it felt weird when I said it. I feel like I butchered the word and said something different, like
That's okay.
franchises or something, I don't know. Anyway, so
Don't be so hard on yourself.
I know I'm too tough on myself. I think that's the problem. So we started some franchises back in October, and we've been working our way through them a little bit. We slowed down a little bit the last couple of months because we were busy with other things, and we slowed down the episodes a little bit. But we got back to Friday the 13th a couple of weeks ago. This week we are getting back to Nightmare on Elm Street with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3: The Dream Warriors. So that is what we are talking about today. So we'll start spoiler free, and we'll warn you somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers. So, the last couple of episodes, Tim has put us on 10-minute tangents before we've gotten to actually talk about the movie. So I'm going to give him an opportunity now to get his tangent out of the way, should he wish to.
I mean, I don't think I've anything as excited to talk about this movie. You're talking about how kind of like slowed down a bit and been pretty busy lately. And
Mm-hmm.
this week it was even kind of hard. I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm getting ready for a small little trip, and I got work and blah blah, blah all this stuff. And so it would have actually been really easy to kind of push this off another week. But I was like, damn, I really want to talk about this movie. Yeah, it's well, I mean, we'll see how we feel about it. But I was excited to watch it and talk about it.
That was all on topic. I am shocked. We'll see how long that lasts, but here we are. So, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is notable because, unlike Part 2, it is actually more of a direct sequel to the first one because we have Nancy back, played by Hella Lionkamp. Her father also shows up, played by John Saxon, and we directly kind of reference that the events of the first movie happened, and it is set at a mental hospital where a bunch of teenagers who have encountered Freddy in some way, who basically the system have concluded they must be crazy because they're getting up in the middle of the night and they seem to be self-harming. That's what it looks like anyway, from their perspective. So they're all in here, and Hella Lioncamp's character Nancy from the first movie kind of comes in as this kind of new age psychiatrist to try and help with dream problems. And we also have a younger Lawrence Fishburne, credited as Larry Fishburne.
Larry.
Let's not forget that. And that's the premise of the movie, and it's a little bit more different in the sense that it largely revolves around, okay, how can we fight back against Freddy? That ends up being what the goal of the movie ultimately is, as it goes on. So we have a whole cast of characters. They're a very notable bunch because they're all kind of memorable. You've got your one who's kind of like a D&D player. You've got the quiet kid who's, you've got the girl who wants to be a TV star. You've got the one who's got the sort of the ex-junkie life, who's had problems and curbed them. You've got all these characters who are a little bit different. So it's a very nice mix of cast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. Obviously more on spoilers later, but after giving the premise, I always ask Tim the question, Tim, do you enjoy A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors?
Yeah, I mean, of course I do. It's such a dumb question to ask. Yeah, this movie is fantastic. It's as I've said before, I'm a big fan of the Nightmare franchise overall, and
Really, I've never heard that before, but go on.
I wouldn't say this is my favorite, but I also never. I'm not surprised when a lot of people will say that this is their favorite, because I think that's totally reasonable, because this is very, very dang good. And you neglected to mention that it's I don't know if is it fully written by Frank Darabont, or did he just do like a first
it wasn't
treatment or
fully
something?
written because I know Wes Craven also has a writer credit.
Okay, yeah.
If I check out the writer section on IMDb, we have story by Wes Craven and Bruce Wagner, and then the screenplay by Wes Craven, Bruce Wagner, Frank Darabont, and Chuck Russell. Chuck Russell being the director of the film as well. So, so
a lot
there's
of
a few cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, but definitely. I don't know who this Bruce Wagner guy is, but I mean, obviously Wes Craven and Frank Darabont are know people you wouldn't want to kick out of the car,
Sure.
the
Oh, well, funnily enough, this is before Frank Darabont, at least from what we know him for, was kind of known. Because, this is before Shawshank, this is before The Mist and Green
yeah.
Mile and all that
um,
stuff.
in the credits he's actually listed as a Francis Darabont, which was funny. um but
Is that true? Or are you just
no,
cracking a
it's
joke
not.
because of Larry Fishburne? All right, just checking. Just checking.
But no, this is obviously is great. We're going to get into more details about it, but just something that you said before. It's a like just an interesting story. It doesn't, just do kind of the easy horror thing where just duplicates the first movie. There's actually, it feels like this is a very lived-in world where like things have progressed and characters have grown, and we have new characters and a new situation. But it still feels like fully set in the nightmare world, but while at the same time it seems like a kind of logical steps that it's taken to go above and beyond and kind of build and create more of this world, which is really really cool, and you know something you don't always see.
I feel like when I get asked the question at the start of the show, Tim, you get very serious for your answer and you're very sort of formal, and then that goes out the window as soon as we start actually discussing back and forth.
Yeah, well, you know.
And I'm not criticizing you should be proper the rest of the time. I'm more pointing out just how proper you get for that one section of the show. Just that one little section, you get very formal in the way you address the audience, like you're an important person. I know you're not, but you're
Right.
you're pretending that you are. You're giving words of wisdom. I want to point that out. So
Indubitably.
indubitably. Anyway, so oh, yes, I like Drew Moyers a whole lot. In fact, I am one of
There's your response.
I am one of the sensible people who would say this is the best in the series. I like this more than the first one. That's right.
Debatable, but it's very good.
That's right. You can suck it. Dream Warriors Supreme. so, so here's the thing. Here's the thing about Dream Warriors. I love that it feels like it's actually progressed in the world. Like Freddy's still getting after kids. Nancy survived.
Yeah.
Nancy got better. And there is a reference because we obviously debated at the end of the first movie, like exactly what happened with the whole mother situation and like what was
I
that
believe
ending.
I won that debate.
Did you? I don't remember what I said, so I can't even dispute who won
So
what.
we'll chalk it up to me then.
No, we will not. We will call it a tie.
Connor, you keeping score?
I see nothing. He hasn't watched scary movies. They're too scary for him.
Oh,
His little ginger hair like goes all poofy.
it makes me just want to wrap him up in a blanket and just kind of stroke his head while I make him watch scary movies.
You do that, Tim. You do you. Make sure you turn the camera on. I feel like this has got some show potential. Cut back to Connor's reaction to the movie mid-review. So, but. So, you've got that element. Everyone knows I love a nice set of rules. Everyone knows I love like characters trying to like figuring out a plan and working against the bad guy, the villain, the scary monster, whatever. It's what I love about It Follows. It's what I love about the first Nightmare. Cause I love that Nancy gets proactive in that and she's trying to figure out how to solve it. But when you've got a team of characters, I tend to like it just that little bit more. But no, I like that it's a natural progression because it does feel like no, Freddy's still doing this stuff, and sure, Nancy survived, but she still remembers, and she still wants to help other kids who are going through it. And there is a reference to her mother where she just says her mother died in her sleep. And I like how ambiguous that is. It's like, well, that probably was Freddy then, but it doesn't necessarily mean it was. Like, she just could have died in her sleep. That's all that could mean.
Yeah.
But it was probably Freddy.
Yeah, I mean, Freddy could have easily made it look like it was, something else. That,
Yeah.
if he just like choked her or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a less obvious, visible mark to denote death, wouldn't it? Because obviously, when someone dies in their sleep, but they've got giant claw marks going across their neck or their stomach, then you're like, okay, right, I've got a feeling there was foul play involved here.
And I think this is kind of what's interesting about this that I feel like you don't see very often is that, like you said, we have this group of characters that are being proactive, which is great. But it's also cool that they're all very like unique and memorable, kind of like you said. And it's in a way they kind of overshadow Freddy, which I feel like doesn't happen often in horror movies. Usually, the
It
star of the show is kind of the villain, and
yeah,
in this it's kind of
it definitely doesn't happen for the rest of the franchise.
yeah.
Like I think this is the last time this possibly happens. And I think it also is quite wise because he's pretty funny, but he's not like full on just comedy Freddy yet. He's still intimidating. They leave him off screen
Yeah.
for a long time. There's just hints of him until the last like 30 minutes where it fully becomes okay. Freddy's out and about and he's doing creepy things and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah, he still feels menacing, still creepy. He's not full on like jokey Tales from the Crypt Freddy.
Yeah.
that,
Also, he does have
but-
maybe his best line of dialogue ever in this movie.
which I believe was improvised by Robert Englund himself.
That does not surprise me, but
Yeah.
so I assume you know the line I'm referring to, which
Yeah.
is "Welcome to prime time, bitch." That one.
Yeah.
That's such a good line. And then, of course, I mean, we're in spoiler free, so I suppose I shouldn't say what happens after he says that line, but
Sure. I mean, most people probably know it, even if you're not like a huge nightmare guy. It's kind of a famous horror scene.
let's just
But-
say it's related to a television set. Let's just say that. so no, you've got that, and it actually does kind of feel like a conclusion to the series as well. Like, I think, not to give away some feelings on 4, but I feel like 4 does that thing where it feels like it's extended beyond its natural endpoint because they wanted to have more. Because obviously this did really well, for a slasher movie in the 80s, and they wanted more. And 4 makes a lot of the sequel mistakes I'd expect the second movie to make, which bizarrely didn't happen in this series because the second movie was just this odd standalone thing, and then 3 is the proper sequel that actually wraps up the story, and then 4 is the one that goes, no, let's retcon the ending and mess with some things you liked in the third movie just so we can keep it going. So 4 does that. And I'll leave that there because we'll talk about 4 in a month or two's time when we get to that, but that's like something that I think is a sign of how much I like this one, is that I am annoyed at 4 for messing with it. I'm like, no, that should have been the end. That should have been finished. Now, obviously, I don't include Wes Craven's New Nightmare in this because that's such a sort of standalone meta outside the series thing, even though it's part of the series. It's kind of this weird own thing. But for me, this is the end of the story. For me, this is like kind of like how I've always said with Halloween 4. Like, that's where you stop. You can watch the rest out of curiosity, but Halloween 4 is the end of the story. So stop there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of it's a little weird because I would be totally fine with this as an endpoint, but when you're dealing with franchises, sometimes it's kind of fun just to I don't know, kind of see how far they can go. Even though it gets bad, you still kind of have like some love for it. But I get what you're saying though. Like,
well, I think I'm more critical of it with Freddy because I do feel like, other than New Nightmare, which again is a very different beast, it is pretty bad from here on out after this. do you
Okay.
Are you a fan of 4, 5, and 6? I mean,
I'm not gonna give a.
all right, okay, you
my
you
details away.
you hold that close to your chest until we get there. But
You have to tune in. We'll see.
I'll just say this now: if you like 6, I'm disowning you.
We shall see.
Freddy's Dead is garbage. I am not looking forward to rewatching that for this, but anyway. What is interesting though, to compare it to Friday the 13th, I don't feel that way with Friday the 13th. It didn't matter what they did to Jason, I always wanted more. And I never felt like there was like a section of the franchise that was after the point where it should have ended.
Sure. I mean, I like Jason, but I didn't have as much love for him growing up as I did Freddy. So I don't know. I wouldn't argue with you, but
No, it's not so much that. I think I do like Jason more, but I don't think it's that. What I just mean is that if you like the early Jason movies, you'll like most of them. It doesn't go. It doesn't go downhill like I think both Halloween and Friday and Nightmare on Elm Street do at some point, where all of a sudden it's just off a cliff, and then it's like, garbage for the most part.
the one thing I would say about Freddy though is that he has such a unique power set that it does kind of make it interesting. Like, when you're getting a new movie, it's like, oh, I can't wait to see like what the new kills are going to be. Just because he can literally do anything. Whereas like
Yeah.
Jason, I still am gonna. Don't get me wrong. I'll always be excited for like a new Friday the 13th movie, but for the most part, it's probably gonna be a lot of stabbings. He'll mix it up a little bit here and there, but with Freddy, it's like, oh, is he gonna turn into a shark and eat someone, or is he gonna throw him into outer space? It's like it's limitless. Which it's kind of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would be very wary of like a new Friday or a new Nightmare movie. But it does kind of like it is surprising that what you could do with CGI that they haven't like they had the one terrible remake, but it really didn't play with his power set that much.
Oh,
like,
we'll get there.
Didn't do crazy stuff.
When we said we're doing the franchise, we're doing all of it. Like that's happening.
Geez.
Well, not including the TV show, movies only. But
I mean, spoiler alert. I'll give you my feelings on the remake for free. It's pretty bad. I've only seen it once, so I'm a little curious to go back and watch it. But it's I know it's not going to be bad. But I don't know. It'd be interesting if they did do a new one though, and they had like proper like CGI that they could like do some really crazy stuff with it.
What's funny is I actually think I'm the opposite to how you feel there. I mean, I like a lot of Freddy's kills in this, and I like them in the first one, but for me, that randomness of it can be literally anything because it's in a dream is actually something I like less than, okay, I'd rather see someone be inventive with what's around them. For me, there's more satisfaction in that.
All right, I mean, yeah, that's... I'm not going to argue because that's just like
it's a taste thing.
Preference.
Yeah, it's a taste thing. I'm not debating the merits of one over the other. More than I'm just saying, I don't know. That just like I like that more. Like there's something about there's a corkscrew here, so let's corkscrew them in the eye, like kind of thing. Like something.
So you're taking like notes for when you eventually snap and.
Yes. So, I've got a list of about 100 or so ways that I might kill Tim with, like just. Various ideas.
Good thing I keep my address hidden.
I've got satellite, don't worry.
See, it is kind of funny though, because I am the exact opposite though. Like I love dreams. Like I apologize if if someone's ever been at a party with me. I'm the annoying dude that pulls you aside and tells you about the weird dream I had last night. But what's kind of funny is I think it was like sometime last week I actually had like a really long dream. It was like a nightmare.
I like how this was all just a lead in so you could tell some people about your dream. I'm the annoying guy at parties that'll tell you about his dream, which reminds me I have a dream I'd like to tell you all now.
Well, I'm not going to go into like too many details about it. I don't remember a ton, but I do remember it was actually a Jason dream. I was like being chased around by Jason Voorhees, and it was funny because when I woke up, most people don't really like nightmares, but like when I woke up from it, I kind of like felt like, oh, that was cool. Like I just like saw like a totally unique Friday the 13th movie that no one else will ever see. Like I don't know, nightmares are like kind of cool, like one-time only horror movies that no one else can see. I think that's kind of neat.
In your head, it was probably badly directed.
Oh, you don't know that.
I'm making an assumption. I'm feeling confident about it.
I'll recreate it and show you.
Yeah, I can never remember my dreams. I every so often I'll remember a vague detail, but like once I've woken up properly, it's all gone. So most nights I don't even know that I've dreamt. Like so sometimes I'll wake up, I'll have a sense that I dreamed, but it's not really. I've only ever had one real nightmare.
Huh.
And by one real nightmare, I mean I woke up sweating and like, I sat up. In the movies where they sit up really quickly and they're sweating because something was really scary. I couldn't remember what it was. I have no idea what I was dreaming about. I just woke up like that one night. So clearly I was having a nightmare, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I would say I have nightmares fairly often. Like not every night, but yeah.
It was before I met Tim. Otherwise, I'd assume it was Tim trying to seduce me. But
oh, okay. I don't know what to say to that.
I've stopped the conversation dead. I'm glad of that. I'm reaching for a drink and there's no drink, Tim. I'm upset now. Well, go on.
Sorry. I've woken up screaming a couple of times, which I always think is kind of interesting. But yeah, I've never had anything like too intense.
Hence my assumption that the direction in your head is bad. That said, though, Tim, you somehow managed to get us on a tangent for about 10 minutes away from the movie. Uh, I mean,
It's related to
I
the
know it's
movie.
dreams, so it's kind of related, but you know what? This is loose. This is loose stuff. Loosey goosey. So, um, so what else do we talk about before we get to spoilers? Because I feel like I want to talk about the kills, but we can't do that until we get to spoilers.
Well,
Um,
I do want to say that that again, like we're kind of like adding on to the story, like we already mentioned a couple of times. Like it feels like a natural progression,
mm,
but I do like at the same time it still feels like oh, we're still within like what the premise of the franchise is. Like we are still getting these cool dream sequences. We are still getting like these cool kills. Like it just does like it's exactly what you want a sequel to do, where it's building, but keeping within what you're expecting and kind of just like giving you more, while at the same time being like its own unique experience, which is just that's really cool. It's impressive.
to sum all that up in a word, evolution. It's an evolution of the first film.
Sure, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, elegant. That was elegancy, Tim. I know you don't recognize it,
Okay.
but
Sure. Whatever lets you sleep at night.
look, just because the horror movies in your head at night are directed by Uwe Boll, don't give me shit.
My a horror movie or a nightmare would just be like having to spend time with Uvable.
As he tells you his ideas. Let me pitch you a film. No, piss off, Uwe.
We'll probably have to do a movie of his soon. Maybe that might have to be one of the next Patreon picks or commentaries or something.
I feel that's more of a goal. Like, if we hit an X amount, we'll do a Uwe Boll movie. That's a fun little goal. I think that's something we should consider.
Sure. Okay.
A nice, goal where it's like, okay, right, we hit, $300 on Patreon. We'll do like a month of Uwe Boll movies or something. Oh, see, my body's resisting. It's like, no, if you promise that, my body is just like saying, I'll kill you from the inside. Don't do it.
Oh. Too bad you don't have a drink.
I hate you so much, Tim. I hate you so much. So, I guess I'll say the cast. Obviously, we mentioned some of the cast members. We didn't mention
sure.
Patricia Arquette, who plays Kristen, who's the main girl in this. Of course, she went on to do much things. It's actually kind of weird watching an old movie with her as a teenager. Because I tend to think of her as like the mum in Boyhood or something.
Okay.
Time's a funny thing.
It is funny.
Yeah. Well, as you will, probably. Alright, we'll give a spoiler warning so we can talk about deaths and stuff and where the plot actually goes and whatnot. So let's talk kills. Let's talk Freddy murders.
Yes.
Obviously, as the truck is backing up outside Tim's house, obviously we enjoy a TV death. Welcome to Prime Time, bitch.
Yeah.
That's very good. That's the girl who, of course, wants to go to Hollywood and become an actress. Hence the joke. Obviously, another big notable one from this movie is the guy who makes marionettes.
Yeah.
And he literally becomes a marionette in his dream. And of course, it's really cool because you see like Freddy's really big and over the building, and he's like controlling them with strings. But to everyone else who's watching, and that's one of the things that I like about this is that they're all kind of aware of this maybe happening. That they're all kind of on alert because we see they've got a system. We see that like like okay, I'll take the first shift, you sleep, and I'll stand guard. And if you look like you're in distress, I'll wake you up. That becomes like a thing early on. And yeah. I like that when they see him like walking across to the ledge, like everyone like knows what's happening. They're trying to save him. They're trying to wake him up. And they're just too far away. I like that. I like that it plays with they all know what's going on here, and they're trying to figure it out. Because one of my favourite little scenes in the movies, when Nancy first comes in to talk to them all, at like a group meeting, and like they're all just kind of like, not listen to this, psychiatrist lady. Like, she doesn't care about us. And then she's like, I know who's coming after you. His name's Freddy, and he's got a burned face, and he wears a hat, and he's got claws on his right hand, and like just slowly, all of them just kind of looking at her like, how do you know this? And I like that. I like that they finally have someone they can confide in. And one of the ways that this adds to the overall mythology is the idea that they realise that because, and this is something they kind of forget about in future movies, which again, screw you, 4, 5, and 6, is that in a dream they actually have some powers of their own because it's a dream. They can literally just do something if they want to. So they all basically realise they've got like powers in the dreams, and it's a great scene where there's an attack on Kristen early on where that's the big sort of famous snake head Freddy where he's like eating her right out the wall.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Really cool effect, but she actually pulls Nancy into her dream. Like, Nancy goes to sleep and she comes into the dream with her. And so they do this group hypnosis thing where they all try to fall asleep together, and then they realise they're in a dream, and it's like, okay, so we all have powers and stuff. Let's try and do something. It's a dream, just think of what you want to do. And the kid in the wheelchair, the wizard master, he can walk because he's in a wheelchair normally. All of a sudden, Taryn has like got a mohawk and she's got like switchblades, and I'm bad and beautiful, and then the Kincaid, he's got super strength and he's like crushing the legs of the chair. And he's like, oh, this is fun. This is like, okay, hence why it's called Dream Warriors, because they all realize they can fight back. So it becomes this thing where we're all going to try and go into the dream together, and we can, because again, that's a pretty big evolution from the first movie where it was never two characters at the same time dreaming. It was never like two people together in a dream. It was always one person on their own running away from Freddy. So this was a very different approach. This was like, okay, this. What can we do? What can we do to this to actually advance it, but make it feel like it's still part of the same kind of rule set?
Oh, definitely. And I think this is one of the cool things that makes like the Dream Warriors so memorable is because they all have these like different powers, and they're all like pretty unique, and because just aside from them already kind of being different and like from each other, they're already pretty memorable, but then once they are in their dreams and the warriors, and the one kid looks like a wizard, and then the other one looks like this big punk rock chick, and it's like, oh, like it's almost like superheroes in a way, like they all kind of have like costumes and powers. It's really cool.
It kind of is, and I think actually the reason why they're so different and distinct is actually a byproduct, because they wanted to give them all these powers, so they made the characters who all kind of related to the powers they were going to get, and I think that's actually why we ended up with such a nice mix of characters who all feel very different. If I have any complaints, it's just that a couple of them die too quickly, because it basically we get to a point like half an hour before the end of the movie where she's been kicked out along with the main doctor dude that she's been with, Neil Gordon. Like he's like the therapist who's actually looking after them all, and they get kicked out because they've been doing this dream stuff, and like two kids end up dead by that point, and then Joey, the kid who doesn't speak, he's been trapped in a coma because he's got a crush on the nurse who like Freddy like manipulates, and like it makes him like think he's kissing the nurse, but then it's like, oh no, tongue tied to the bed. Haha, very funny. But it's like, okay, so two kids are dead and one's in a coma, so you know what, you're fired. You're not doing your job very well. And so basically they actually sedate Kristen, and it's like, okay, shit, she's sedated, like we have to do something. So Nancy hypnotizes the rest of them again together, and they're going into like, so that she's not on her own, but they're going in to save Joey, because Joey's inside the dream still. He's still alive, because at one point like he's in a coma and Nancy's like, oh Joey, please, I know you're in there, come back to us. And then Freddy like carves on his stomach, come in and get him, bitch. Like that's like, it's funny, but it's like, oh, it's a mission. It's like they're coming together because they have to go in as a team to save someone. Rather than just, oh, we're trying to survive, we're trying to kill Freddy. No, we're trying to save someone. It gave it more of like a, they're not just being reactive, like, they're being proactive.
Yeah.
And I like that.
And it's kind of funny. Sometimes I forget when I watch this, but like most of them like survive. Like the body count's kind of low in this. Like if you compare it to the first one, where pretty much everyone dies. Like this one's kind of the opposite. Like, oh no, like mostly everyone lives.
I'd say it's more 50-50, because I do...
if you count, like, the older characters, too, I guess.
Yeah, because I do wish the, obviously a couple of them who go in at the end have to die, but I do think it was a shame how quickly Taryn and the wizard kid both get killed. Like, they're in, like, one scene, they have a good spell of offense, they try and fight back, and they get killed. Obviously, there's the evil, like, wheelchair with all the spikes on it, and then the wizard uses his electricity power to, like, blow it up, and, all these things. But they do go quite quick, which is probably my one complaint. I could have done like with all of them getting together and then a couple of them dying whilst they're together, maybe to like really sell the team thing. But you know, it's whatever. It's a minor complaint because the rest like find each other and they help each other. The super strength kid like fights his way through walls and stuff. And but as this is all going on, of course, the way that the movie's like sort of like given as like an out, like how do we beat Freddy? All throughout the movie, the Doctor Gordon he's been seeing this nun going around. And I think right from the get-go you get the idea that she's probably not really there. This is like a phantom or something. And she's like sort of like hinting as to like, oh, you have to stop Freddy, you have to do this. And he gets the idea that they have to like find these bones and like put them in holy ground. They have to like bury them in holy ground. And that'll kill Freddy. That'll stop him.
Always reminds me of Castlevania too.
In that
game.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, to be fair, this existed first, I think.
Probably, yeah, probably.
I think it's maybe close, but I think it did. May have ended up in the same time. What's actually funny is this is actually the sole plot point that they used in the video game for Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
The whole concept of that game is collecting the bones, which of course are scattered all over the place because it's a video game. And yeah, so
I think pretty fun game actually. I think I played that about a year or two ago, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Did you beat it?
I did, but I no. Well, I guess you can probably say that because I was playing on a like my Retron system, and you can use like save states on that. So, like if I was at a part that was too hard, I could save it and start again.
So you could save scum. I don't know if I'd call that cheating. Now, to me, that's just a way of playing video games. I wouldn't call that cheating, but
I know like some fair. Yeah, it's
I the purist. Play how you want to play, Tim.
Yeah, I absolutely love video games, but I never claim to be good at them. Like, I know like some people think just like looking at like a guide or something is cheating, which I think is kind of like I feel like that's a little extreme. But I mean,
but sometimes you just don't have the time to figure things out. You want to just like get past the bit you're stuck at, just so you can keep playing and enjoy the rest of it. It's fine.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but I mean, if this was back in the day, like middle school, high school, where I didn't have to worry about a job or like, girlfriend or a million.
Blame the girlfriend. It's our fault. It's our fault. I'm shit at video games because of you. Why am I marrying you again?
I'm just saying, there was a time when basically you had nothing but time, so you could play something for hours and not like feel like, all right, I gotta rush this thing along. Which I love playing games now, but then it gets to a point where it's like, all right, come on, I just want to beat this.
Yeah, you have X amount of time. You don't want to waste some of that just being stuck and frustrated at a part. No, it makes sense.
Exactly.
And as per usual, around the 30-minute mark, there's usually a cut because our recording software gets a little bit fussy if you make the recording go on too long. And it's just good practice to cut it into chunks just in case something does go wrong and you lose the whole thing. Just good practice when you're recording something.
Okay.
And that gave me but it also gives us an actual opportunity to have a break if we need to go to the bathroom, or in this case, take care of my thirst and get a beverage.
I feel like in your mind you thought that was going to be like a lot more epic or something. Are you expecting the people watching to like throw up their hands, be like, "Yeah, you got a drink"?
No, it's more of a screw you, Tim, because you were making fun of me because I wanted a drink. I didn't have one.
Well, so I was interested to kind of see what your take was on the ghost nun kind of stuff, because this is another thing that I really love about the movie is I like that there's all this extra stuff going on. Like, it's not just about them fighting Freddy, but there's this like ghost nun thing, which I feel like maybe like there are people that would be like, oh, that's a little too much, like, but I like that this idea that, hey, Freddy exists in this world is probably like weird other, like spooky stuff too.
Yeah. And if Freddy can exist, then there has to be other supernatural things. Like,
yeah.
I mean.
So I like this addition. I feel like it's another good like addition to the mythology.
Yeah, and obviously we get the backstory of Freddy. I mean, obviously we had the whole he was murdering kids, possibly molesting them. It never actually outright says that, but you kind of assume it, I guess. But but so we find out the origin, like before that, like how he is the way he is that his mother was. I mean, obviously the twist at the end is that this is his mother, the ghost, but she was locked in a prison over Christmas with no guards, or with some guards, but they always hid her from the guards. But she was locked in with all the inmates, and she was raped hundreds of times by a prison full of inmates, crazy inmates, over the holidays. So the idea that Freddy Krueger is the bastard child of like of 100 maniacs is super over the top, but it does kind of work. It is.
To me, I really like this backstory, which sounds kind of weird because obviously it's horrific. I would never wish that on another person, but it sounds like
of course you wouldn't wish it on someone, Tim. No one's questioning that,
right? But I just like this sounds like such a like this has such like a weird like local urban legend kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it does.
I kind of love it. Like, yeah, I love it for that aspect.
It has that vibe to it, and I think just the idea that Freddy's that awful, like he's always been that awful a person.
Yeah.
The idea that he like there's no one father, it's like 100 maniacs are his father. That is something to that idea that kind of works. It'd be different. Like if they actually showed like a flashback of this happening, I'd feel uncomfortable with it. But as a story,
oh yeah, sure.
It's like it's got this legend myth to it.
And you can't think about it too long because the science on it really doesn't check out. Like I'm pretty sure, like.
Oh yeah, no, scientifically, as soon as one got her pregnant, then none of the penises after that would have triggered anything. But
or it's like, oh, is there a way to tell like how evil a sperm is? And it's like the more evil sperm get together, like the more evil your child will be.
It's a movie about a guy who kills people in their dreams. Given that logic, I think we can go along with this. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah, but I think you summed it up well. Why it's a good backstory though. It's got that urban legend kind of this happened here years ago kind of feel to it.
And it's cool, and it kind of sets off like this little. It kind of feels like a side quest to the main story where.
But it's integral to it as well, which is nice. Yeah. Which is of course the Dr. Gordon teams up with Nancy's father, so we get him back, which is why it feels like a proper conclusion. It feels like. I feel weird calling it a trilogy because the second one doesn't really matter. Like you could just watch 1 and 3, it's fine. That'll do.
Yeah.
It's almost in the same way that you can skip Halloween 3. Like if you want to just watch 1, 2, and 4, it's the story. You can't you don't need to watch 3. 3 is like completely different. But like it does feel like a conclusion to the story that started in 1 because you've got like the father who also survived being here. We find that he's a drunk, and obviously since like his wife died, like he's been kind of estranged with Nancy. But she still cares for him, and he still cares for her. It's just kind of this weird, awkward thing. And he of course was amongst the parents who killed Freddy and burned the body and stuff. And it's like, okay, where are the bones? We need to go find them. So we get this quest of them going to. Well, first they stop off at a church so they can steal some holy water and a crucifix, and then they go to this junkyard because they hid the bones in the back of a car, in the middle of a junkyard. And hey, cat,
what are you doing?
It's not my cat for a change. It's one of your cats. And he's making noise over the mic now as well.
Okay.
Some X-rated cat ass for you on the show tonight. The audio people don't even know what they're missing at all. This is so where was it? Yes. So bones in a junkyard. So they go find the bones. We get some almost Evil Dead 2 or esque like moments where like Freddy when he's about to kill some of them in the dream. They've got his bones, so he leaves the dream and his bones come to life and actually kill, like, Nancy's father gets killed, like, fighting because he's like, I killed you once before, and then he starts fighting with a skeleton. And obviously the effects are quite old school here, but they kind of work for the most part in, like, a sort of fun, cheesy 80s way.
Yeah, it's, like, it's definitely cheesy, but, yeah, it has its charm. Yeah, I feel like if you look the movie up to this point, I feel like it's it's in line with the aesthetic and it's not going to do much.
And he gets impaled and stuff. And I actually had forgot. It's been a long time since I'd watched it. When I watched this again, that I'd forgotten that both Nancy and her father both die.
Yeah,
I didn't remember that, and I was actually really disappointed when Nancy died as well because I was like, well, I get it, he died because he kind of was like part of what started all this. Even though, don't get me wrong, I don't think the parents were like evil for what they did. I mean, he was like kidnapping their kids and whatnot, but she's kind of innocent. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a nice again full rounded story or narrative to it, because the main character kind of like defeated Freddy with, you know, as she died. Like she's dead, but she took out Freddy. She helped take out Freddy, and she saved all these new generation of kids. That's kind of cool. And we do have like 4 survivors who all go to her funeral, and that's the ending where we find out, wait, you were the mother all along. And of course, there's the final little horror movie shot where, like, you know, Gordon's asleep and he's got the little dream, like, statue that Nancy had to show that that's kind of lived on in some way. And you see the little light come on in the little toy house, which obviously just a nice little wink, you know, maybe the horror's still out there ending, but for the most part, no, this concludes the story. They beat Freddy, they send him to hell, and...
Which I absolutely love, like, Freddy's death scene here, like as he's you know, in the dream world fighting them, and you know, you just see like all these kind of, they're sprinkling them with like holy water and stuff, and you just see the spots like, you know, coming on
just to clarify, that's in the real world. Like Gordon's Gordon's splashing them with holy water, and in the dream you see like, it's almost like holes in his body, but there's light coming through them. And it's like it's very holy, I suppose. It's like the golden light of God is like coming through his body. That's really cool.
Cool visual. It's a very good ending. It feels very satisfying, and then, you know, cut to credits, kick in this really cool like 80s rock ballad.
Oh yeah, if it wasn't a copyright issue, I'd be blasting the Dream Warriors at the start and the end of this, because we're the Dream Warriors.
A couple of moments just want to highlight real quick that I think are cool is Taryn's death. I actually like a lot. Like, it's not like a big bombastic death, but I think it's cool seeing Freddy's hands turn into the needles, and then and you just see like the little you know, marks on her arms kind of like puckering, like they want it. It's just a cool visual. But like you said, though, I do wish she stuck around a little longer. Like, I'd be fine with that death, but, you know, maybe if she was, if there's a little more leading up to it.
I just think her and the wizard maybe died too, because they had their one scene and then they were dead by the end of the scene, and I was like, whatever, because I actually grew to like all the characters, like, because you see them playing games together, you see them kind of bickering together, like you get like a little family vibe from them. So
and then we didn't really mention the big scene with Joey, where, you know, he finally gets rescued, and it's kind of, you know, towards the end, everyone is getting sucked into the mirrors, and then
it's a whole of mirrors,
and but that's just cool. He realizes his you know, dream power is that he can actually talk, and then you know, he's able to scream and shatter the mirror, and everyone falls out. That's just another cool scene. And again, it's funny though, because there's like scenes like that it's like, oh, those are cool, but it's like, oh, those aren't like death scenes. So like, there's like a lot of cool scenes that aren't necessarily just kills.
Yeah, because there's technically it's a kill, but it's not a real kill, because it's just like a fake dream person. But when he's like, when he puts Kristen back to the start of the movie, where she's like waiting up for her mum at night, and she comes back with a boyfriend, and the scene plays out like it did before, but she has this kind of weird deja vu kind of thing, and then Freddy's the boyfriend, and he comes in and he just like decapitates her mother, and like the mother's head's there, but she's still talking. That was fun. And I like that Freddy was in a tuxedo for that scene. It was just a fun kind of look to see Freddy in a tux. Honestly, the only little thing I don't like really is I'm not necessarily a big fan of. I mean, I don't mind this as a concept. The whole idea that all the souls of the kids that he's killed give him more strength. Like, he's more powerful now than he's ever been because he keeps killing people. I don't mind that as a concept. I don't actually like the visual effect of like all the faces and his like chest screaming out.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I think it's an interesting look, and I feel like the practical effects are well done.
It's just a taste thing. I don't really have like a reason why it's bad. It's just I don't know.
It doesn't tickle your pickle. That's cool.
Doesn't tickle my pickle. There you go. So, doesn't float my boat. Doesn't churn my butter.
But yeah, trying to think if there's anything else we missed. I feel like we covered all the big scenes. I guess we didn't really talk about the opening too much, where you know, she's like running away from him, and Kristen, you know, and she picks up like the little girl and turns into a skeleton, and she gets stuck in the tar. Yeah.
No, I didn't talk about that opening too much. No,
there's not much to say about it, but you know, it's a good opening. But yeah,
it's a fun sequence. Obviously, that ends with her getting cut, and it looks to her mother, it looks like she's slit her wrists because she's in the bathroom and she's holding a piece of glass. which is why she gets sent to the hospital, and that's kind of I mean that's basically the movie. I think for me it's a really lean and mean film, and it's like a proper build up. Obviously, there's this sleazy orderly who like it hits on Taran at one point and is like, hey, if you want more drugs, I can get you into the, it's basically just wanting like easy sex off a mental patient, like, I guess is the way to put it.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I guess it would have been nice to see him get some comeuppance.
Yeah, killed. Yeah, that would have been nice.
And then there's some good mythology stuff that they will reference from this movie back in once we get to Freddy versus Jason.
That's true. Yeah. This probably has 1 and 3 have the most mythology in them. I feel like 4, 5, and 6 just kind of keep making up things just so they can have a movie, as opposed to like good stuff.
Interesting.
And things that make sense. Yeah, more than that when we get to 4, 5, and 6.
In a weird way, I think that when I kind of think of like terms of like having your trilogy and stuff too, I always think of like the first movie, this one, and then like New Nightmare in a weird way, even though it's kind of its own thing, but it's also kind of the series. I think that makes like a nice trilogy. Yeah,
that's the 3 you should watch, absolutely. If you really watch 3 Nightmare movies, it's 1, 3, and New Nightmare. That's your 3, but yeah, so no, I love once, like I said at the start, I love it because I love characters being proactive and sort of teaming together and trying to fight the bad guy, and this is that to the next level. One's just Nancy, maybe with a little bit of help from a friend, but this one, it's like, no, as a team, let's try and figure this out. And it makes sense they can do extra things in the dreams, like all of the new ideas all feel like they stack on to the original concept very well. Nothing feels like, that doesn't work, or that feels like a forced thing so you can do this or whatever. It all makes some amount of sense, and I like that. So hey, so there you go. That is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, the Dream Warriors. We shall rate the movie out of 10. Timothy, what are you giving it?
I like this one a whole heck of a lot. Still gonna say though, it still doesn't beat the first one for me. I said before that I really love the first one. This one, it's great, but just a little bit of a step down. So I'm gonna give it a 9 actually though. So still gonna give it a really great score. I think it's awesome.
What did you give the first one?
I think I gave it a 10 maybe, or if not maybe like a 9 or a 9.5. But
okay.
I think I gave it a 10 though. I might be crazy.
No, I'm giving this an 8.5. I think I give the first one an 8. This one's a step up for me, but obviously they're both very good. Like I'm not dissing one when I say that. But that's where I'm landing on this. So, clearly, yeah, you're the bigger Freddy fan. You get up to your 9s and 10s. Yeah, you crazy man. But whatever. There you go. That's taste. That's Tim, and in a nutshell. Freddy Krueger, goats, and Hellboy. That's his thing. That's his jam.
Good Saturday night to me.
So the movie sex tape. So that is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. I've done that like 4 times in this video. I've accidentally almost said Friday the 13th. It's so easy to do for some reason. You did it once as well, so you
no.
You shut up. Don't give me that smug face. But that is the third movie. So we are working way through these. We won't be back to this next, of course. We'll be back to Friday the 13th before we get to this. But before we even get to that, we have to get back to Phantasm. We have to get back to The Howling. We get some other Part 4s coming up before we get back to Nightmare on Elm Street. I know next week we have a big exciting new release, so there'll be no franchise movies next week. So you can look forward to that. You know what it is, Tim. Shut up. Stop making the face like, what's coming out? What did I not know about? It's only the most anticipated horror movie of the year for us.
Ready Player One. Yes.
That was mediocre.
I believe Freddy makes an appearance, I think.
So does Jason. And so does... Cool. Those 2 aren't spoilers. I think there's also a third one, which I think is more of a spoiler. But there's 3 big slasher icons in the movie.
Cool.
It's still really mediocre, though.
I did not see it, so I can't say anything.
I'll tell you after we stop if you want to know what the third one was. But
okay.
that is so yeah. We got that next week, and then we got something else the following week. Probably the Patreon pick. The new Patreon pick it's not up yet. It will probably be up a day or two after this goes up for everyone. So if you're a patron or you're interested in being a patron, over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, there's a link in the description. Every month there's a vote for the $5 patrons to vote for. You get 4 movies to pick from, and that'll be up in the next couple of days. I can tell you what the theme's going to be. I can't tell you what the movies are yet, but the theme is going to be the end of the school year. So there's going to be prom and graduation themed horror movies in the
what
vote.
fun.
I know. And the winner of the previous vote, actually, can I remember it off the top of my head? I don't think I can.
I know what it is. But
you don't know what it is. Okay, what was the winner?
it was High Tension.
Ah, yes. High Tension, aka High Tension, aka Switchblade Romance.
So in honor of 420 coming up, we're going to be watching High Tension.
That was terrible, Tim. I can't even applaud that. But that was the winner. The theme for that vote last month was actually all Crypt movies. What is the Crypt, you might ask? The Crypt is also a Patreon thing where $5 patrons can submit movies to the Crypt, which is essentially a to-do list of movies for us that are usually submitted. They go into the list, and every so often we'll pick one to do, or in the case of last month, we picked 4 of them to go into the vote for them to vote for. So that's what the Crypt is. 121 in Flux also has a version of it called The Vault, which is the same kind of thing, but for non-horror movies. So
yeah, I never understood how the Vault works.
Same as the Crypt.
Well, I get the Crypt, but I don't know.
You're being obtuse, Tim. You're being obtuse. So that's the Patreon plug it out of the way. So what else can I tell you? You can like, subscribe, you can let us know what you think of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 in the comments below. You can do other things, and you can
tweet your dreams to Pete. He loves to hear about them.
At Wibble89, you can do that. You can get us at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. You can get Tim at Tim Vergulish if you want to get him. But that is us. So as always, we appreciate you watching or listening. We will see you next time. Keep watching scary movies. Welcome to prime time, bitch.